We're good. And that's what Grandpa said, you know. You go up there, you be quiet. You don't say anything, you don't think. You know, it sounds like a Buddhist thought, you know, like we're meditating, you know. And so I feel that respect for forest is a reflection of respect to self. And the colonial system has taken that away from most Europeans because you were trained in an education system to go out and conquer and disregard yourself, especially when you're going into the factories and into the mines and into the army and into the navy, where you were sent over to conquer, and you were not expected to have any sense. The English system in particular that I'm familiar with is a process of desensitization of people to man their armies, man their navies, man their and man the mines and run the factories. And you are not expected to have any real connection with nature except a punctuous walk in the park at times, you know. And so that system is still being used and bravely trying to be defended by now the remnants of the logging companies that were pillaging our forest. So now we have smaller operators trying to do a double relations, you know, trying to keep people happy. They're trying to keep the forests, I don't know how to call it, the forests sacrificing itself to keep what's left of the logs going into the mills to keep the men happy, and they're now trying to say that the old growth is the only good lumber. You know, it's sort of like saying that I don't know what it is, you know, because you get conflicting reports of logging operators in their quality of wood, which is an area that I don't know. Well, none of us know really, to tell the truth, except the lumbermen. And I wandered.
No. I think what you were talking about made a lot of sense about your relationship with this forest. I'm curious about this camp and the people who have made the commitment to put up these blockades. You mentioned before we started talking that you're a volunteer here. Can you talk to me a little bit about your role in this and what you think of what's being done?
Well, my observations of all the things that have happened here right now is something spontaneous happened. I don't think there was a central coordinating people that said, you know, okay, you know, it's time for you to come up, or, you know, it's your turn. It all happened spontaneously. And I think that is a message to this world that in fact your caring has to be spontaneous with those who you are intimate with. And that is an easy practice with people we know. But most of these people, you know, I've never met them before, you know. And they're all caring people who came for a concern of our own natural self, the forest. And I think that identity with the forest is in fact an identity that mankind has not been able to realize because of the education system that supports an industry of pillage and conquest. So that's why these people are sort of fell through the cracks and discovered themselves.
Okay, the last question that I have for you is about the objectives that people are trying to achieve with this. So there's a number of demands that have been made around this camp, and one of them has been met. They released the report on Friday. I don't know that they did that directly because of the camp, but I'm curious about what you think about the fact that the government and the company haven't really been engaging with this blockade at all. What's your thoughts on the fact that they're not engaging?
It's kind of awkward for me to express the government's blatant disregard of our religious and spiritual needs. There doesn't seem to be anything about our own prayer or meditation or solitude or contact with our natural world and our natural self. And they do not want that to happen. That is why they're grimly trying to drive us away. And we are grimly trying to stay because we know, in fact, this forest is the root of our spiritual being. Mankind has depended on forests, since we became human. And the only way we became human, I guess, is to make a fire to get warm. So it's a provident thing. I think it's our great mother does, in fact, provide all our needs, and that has been adopted by religions and.
But pulling back a little bit, do you think that anything is going to be achieved through this action if people aren't even talking? If the government isn't even reacting to what's being done? Do you think that they are going to react, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think the government is a little bit nervous right now, scared, and they don't want to offend their handlers, the logging outfits, and neither do they want to offend the voters who they're supposed to be caring for. And that creates a, the government seems to be living in a world of conflicting interests, where they're having very limited caring of people and their natural resources, and in particular our forests and the creeks and the whole ecosystem. My personal attachment here is sort of a threefold thing. I mentioned that the Fairy Lake, the top of the Fairy Lake was my two uncles' prayer and meditation place, and also my own drop-in prayer and meditation place. But me and my brother used Brown's Mountain and as ours, which is just adjacent to our village. And it's rather odd that we do things like this in our lives. It's a 3.5-hour walk up there. And my brother and I used to separately walk up there. So it's sort of like, now looking back in my younger manhood, I walked 3.5 hours to go to church, People don't seem to do that, They don't seem to, and can't. We are brainwashed and desensitized enough to not be able to address our own spiritual needs by actually paddling, as a lot of brave paddlers do, paddle for days, and they sublimely know that they're addressing their own spiritual needs, but we haven't not been able to do that with forests, because the forests have been grimly guarded by logging interests, and puts us at loggerheads with their profit and their politics.
Okay, last question that I want to ask you. We had been talking before. You mentioned that that you were the only Pacheedaht member who had come up here. Why do you think that there hasn't been more engagement from other people from your nation?
I think it's one. like all people, my village has not been let to be aware of our natural things. Our forests, our rivers, our ocean were led to believe that, especially on reservations, we're led to believe that we don't have to venture too far to meet our needs. And the government has tended to that in that they're trying to stifle mobility and maintain the status quo of keeping First Nations people on their reservations. And that is not working, to tell the truth, on my reserve, because the vast majority of our good, hard-working, bright people have left and are simply living on their own in town like everybody else. So I wandered off again from your question and I forgot what it was.
Yeah, but so you're here and you support what's happening with this blockade.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. And why do you think there aren't more Pacheedaht members participating?
Well, there are 3 or 4 possible recruits into our way of living. This is a way of living, protecting our forest. It's our life. It's our being. And I think there are a few doing that, and I implore all people to do that.